So the hips are really important in the golf swing, and then one of the biggest restrictions that I find is people not only having the right mobility through the hips, but also being able to use their hips appropriate in the golf swing. So if the majority of amateur golfers could probably not say that they can use the legs and their lower half in the golf swing, and part of the work that you can do in the gym can help improve that. So some of the exercise I do is help people get into the hips, position themselves into the hips, feel the hips, and then build from there. So we're just kind of building that skill, building that ability to get in and out of the hips, and then develop that into a more dynamic movement that can then transfer into the golf swing. So check out a couple of these exercises. If you're struggling to feel that load into the hips, you're struggling to get into that position in the backswing, like I say, it's going to not only allow you to create more consistency in your swing, it's also going to allow you to use your legs and the ground better, which then obviously can contribute to greater club head speed and ultimately more distance, which obviously makes the game far much easier, and then allows you to shoot lower scores, which is obviously the aim of the game. Okay, so check out a couple of these exercises. I've put them in kind of progression order. So if you're struggling with any of them, start at the beginning, build up on that, and then as you progress, you should find that you can kind of get a little bit more efficient and work way through the exercises and add some load and speed. So for this first exercise, we're just trying to get you to feel like you can kind of get in and out of the hip. So you're actually going to reverse the exercise. So we're going to start by sitting on a bench or a chair, and we're going to be kind of working this hip here, the one that's sat on the bench, okay? So kind of most of the weight is on this left side. First thing you're looking for is level hip, knee and ankle. So we're kind of loading the leg. And this leg we're going to take out to the side, okay? And then from here, I just want you to push off and then push up, okay? And then you're going to get back into that position and down. Push off, up, and then back down. Okay, so you're starting in the position that you want to return to, just so you get that feel. Ideally, this leg wants to be quite straight. Okay, so we're getting into that hip. So this is like a variation of the lateral lunge or a Cossack. But like I say, it's just allowing you just to kind of load that hip without kind of over rotating at the pelvis or at the hip. Push up we go, back down. Okay, so if you find that whatever you're using is a little bit low, so this bench is maybe a fraction low for me, you can just build it up, so just increase the height of it. Okay, you want to make sure that you've got, see I've got a little bit of sticking point there, a little bit of control, especially you come here, you don't want to be just dropping down. Okay, so get the right height, push up, squeeze your bottom, and then control back down. And if you find it's really high where you're actually doing the exercise, let's say bump it up a little bit, and a good progression would be to kind of reduce the height of the bench or the chair, which shows you'll be getting more control and depth within like that kind of hip and that movement. So give that a go, obviously do it on both sides. 8 to 10 reps, and then like I say, once you've built the depth up a little bit, you can add a little bit of load to that as well, or you can move on to the next exercise as a progression. So this next exercise is a progression from the previous one we've done where we sat in the bench. Okay, so once you've been able to kind of align the hip and the knee and the leg and push off and create some tension in it and then push off, then this is the next progression. Okay, so I have a weight plate here, it's only 5 kilograms. You can use a dumbbell or kettlebell, obviously if you don't have a weight, or even, you know, just a little bit of weight at home, something in a bag. Okay, it's just to help you balance. So we're going to get into a position where we take his feet nice and wide. Okay, so the wider the better, just to allow movement. When we move in and out of the leg, we're going to make sure that we keep the opposite leg nice and straight. So toes are pointing out, I'm going to hold this plate in towards my chest, and then as I drop down, I'm going to push the weight out and then come back up. So again, I'm just loading that hip. Out we go, push out and back in. Keep the plate in line with your chest, so don't want it to kind of come in front, just push it out in front of the kind of sternum. Load, push and back up. So again, we're just loading that hip. It's a little bit more challenging, okay, but it is, like I say, progression from the previous one, so you should have the control now just to get in there and back out. In and back out. So you can do it without the plate. That might be a little bit easier, but if you feel like you're coming onto your toes, just having a weight out in front will just allow you to kind of sit into it and load the hip and the glute. Again, 8 to 10 on each side, load it up, don't load it up. You can build up to loading as a progression, but as I say, that also actually helps. So just see how you feel with balance. 8 to 10 on each side, and just try and work and get in as much depth into that hip as you can. You might be here to begin with, getting lower, like we did on the bench, just increasing that range and the ability to stabilise within that range. So we're going to move on to more hip hinge exercise. So this is quite a difficult exercise to do. So we're going to start using a golf club, okay, just to kind of give you the feeling of how to actually use hips. A lot of people don't get the feeling of using the hips, and as I say, within the golf swing it's really important that you use hip hinge, not only for posture, but also to make sure that you're generating power and you're using the ground in your swing and using your hips, okay. So you're going to use a golf club, and what you're going to do is you're just going to push the golf club in towards like the toe, okay. So if it's in your right hand, it's into your right toe, okay. Obviously you're going to balance and stabilise on the other leg, and then we're just going to push this leg back. So you're driving the leg back and allowing the upper body to fold over, okay. You want to go as far as you can, and then you're going to control it coming back, again using your hips. So if you look at my hips and relative to my body, yeah, it's all moving together. So think about kind of rib cage and pelvis with a straight line between that. So there was a rod there, we're not going to bend, extend or flex or anything there. We're going to keep it working together. So we're definitely using the hips. I'll show you that again. You're going to push in, push, make sure it's controlled. We don't want to rush this, we want to make sure we've got control in this movement. You should feel a little pull in the planted leg hamstring, and then you're just going to control it back up. I'm using my glute a little bit there on that left side in the hamstring, okay? So I want you to do 7 or 8 on each leg, just getting that balance, getting that range. Also, if you look, I've got a nice straight pelvis, I'm not opening up, and then back up you come. And then obviously you just swap onto the other leg. So just make sure you're not loading through here, just pushing that leg away, and that'll encourage you to use your hips. And then the more that you can kind of work on that and use your hip hinge, again, you're going to have more coordination ability to use that in your golf swing. So once you've got used to the club into toe hip hinge, then it's now time to progress on to kind of loading that hip even more and getting a little bit more what we call internal rotation. So we need internal rotation in the backswing, okay, in our golf swing, okay. So this allows us to kind of load onto here. If you find that you're having a like lateral sway or kind of like reverse spine angle or reverse pivot, sometimes that can be due to the inability to use this hip for whatever reason. It might be mobility, often it's stability, often it's just coordination of the body. Okay, so this is what these exercises are going to do. They're going to help you get into the hips and load them better, so then you can use them in the golf swing. Okay, so we're just progressing. So if you're still struggling a little bit with a hip hinge, kind of keep that in mind and keep that thought and that feel if you're pushing the leg away. But we're going to take the golf club away now, okay? So we're going to hinge at the hip, same feeling, get into that position, and then from here, you're just going to reach across and in front. So I've just popped a foam roller there, just so it gives me something to kind of go for. You don't need to put anything there, but as I say, it just gives you like a little guide, and it's just a little bit in front and just to the side, and you should feel that kind of load of the pelvis into the hip. The leg staying stable, and because you're on one leg, you ain't going to be able to slide or sway or over rotate, otherwise you're going to fall over. So it's a really good drill to kind of allow you to kind of feel that hip load properly. Okay, but you have to get the hip hinge first, okay? So hinge, load, and then back up you come and pushing through like we did with the other one. Okay, hinge, load, feel that tension here in the glute, and drive up. Okay, so it's just a single leg remaining deadlift. Yeah, we just a little cross body reach, feel that load, and then back up. Okay, and again, 8 to 10 on one leg, 8 to 10 on the other leg. I wouldn't think too much about loading it up. For now, it's just about getting that feeling and getting into that hip. If you feel a little bit restricted initially, kind of work on getting deeper and deeper into that hip. If you struggle with the hip mobility, this will definitely help. So on this next exercise, we're just going to get a little bit more dynamic, okay? So the exercise we've gone through, we've tried to get a little bit more depth, get a little bit more load into the hip. Now, can we be a little bit more explosive with it? Okay, so we're going to take the last couple of exercises we've done and put them into a more dynamic exercise, okay? So we're not going to use anything for this one, okay? If you feel that you're not quite ready, just revert back to the other ones, get them right, and then you can have a go at this one, okay? So I'm just gonna make sure I've got enough room to your side, okay? So we're gonna add kind of a lateral bound into this one. So this is where we're gonna get a little bit more dynamic and a bit more explosive, which we do want you out of the hip. Okay, so we're gonna go from the hip hinge, okay? So the same hip hinge that we did with the club, okay? And then we're gonna reach across, and then we're gonna jump and land, okay? Don't worry if you're not quite stable as you land initially, you can work on that. The main thing is you load the hip and you drive out. Then we're going to go the other way, okay? So I'm a right-handed golfer, this will feel like backswing, hinge, load, drive, and catch it. I probably could jump a little bit further, but obviously I need to keep within the camera, okay? But you should get the gist, okay? So I really want you to feel like you're pushing off the floor out of the hip, and you're using the glutes and the legs as your power to kind of get that transfer, okay? So there's a lot of lateral transfer within the golf swing, from backswing, yeah, we should be transferring onto that left side, so that's going to help with any kind of weight transfer as well. I'll show you once more. You're going to hinge, load, drive, and catch. So if you can land with the stick and control, bracing your core, fantastic. So we'll do 2 mini reps with these. It might get you a little bit out of breath if you're not aerobically fit, but like I say, what we're trying to do is work on loading the hip and power and driving, so you can kind of maybe give yourself a little goal of trying to jump and land with control further and further every time you do this exercise, okay? But give that one a go, okay? Hopefully this progression of exercises will allow you to use the hips a little bit more, coordinate the body a little bit more, and give you a little bit more kind of feel as to how the hips should be used in the golf swing. If you want any more tips or ideas, follow my Facebook group, Dynamic Golf UK, or my Instagram. There's lots of videos on there, and also there's more videos on YouTube that you can have a look at. If you've got any questions, or you want any more tips or advice, you want me to make some videos, anything specific, drop me a DM or comment on this video, and I'll be happy to give you as much advice as I can in how you can improve your golf in the gym.